Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Call Sign Charlie Models for part 8 of the HK Models 132nd B-17G. And today we're going to be getting the finalization of all the fuselage and construction of this and starting to move on with paint. And right now we're working on the landing gear. Got it primered with the Mr. Hobby 1500 or Mr. Surfacer 1500 black. And now we are just hitting it with the AK uh, aluminum ped- aluminum metal. Up next, we got the oil tank, I think it is. Painting in the yellow. Yellow is my least favorite color to airbrush or brush paint, but with this, just using the MRP paint for the orange yellow and doing light misting coats. I have my air pressure set at about 10 to 15 psi, probably about 12 psi. And now we're painting on the straps with the AK markers, using rubber black for here, and then we're going to be using the aluminum one for some of the buckles on the tank as well. So really like these markers. They're nice and easy, especially for little touch up areas like this where it's like you don't want to break out a brush or anything. Just real quick with the marker and it's done easy. And actually, the tips are super fine and easy to hit with detail areas on that. Wish they'd come out with more colors for the markers than what they have. They need to increase their sets. Now we're getting the tank attached into the bulkhead of the landing gear. The connection point on this, the pins were too small, so it did take a little bit of extra glue to get that to work. And then getting the bulkhead glued into the rest of the landing gear bay was a nice, easy, quick fit. No real issues with that one. We did two of those, of course. And now we're moving on to the wing, getting the landing gear bay glued into the wing real quick. Now, with the wings, I did have it set up for using the Edward flaps, but when I was doing it, I messed one of them up. So I decided I'm just going to have the flaps closed or retracted on this. So we had to do some putty work because I had already cut off and dug off a lot of the parts that are required to remove for the Edwards set. So got that fixed, and the fit on the wings were very, very tight. So definitely had to take some squeezing to get that in. This area is probably the tightest fit besides the wings, which you'll see here in a little bit as well. Getting those attached to the fuselage actually took a good amount of a fist bump to get those attached to the fuselage. Then we're also going to have some putty work to do on the leading edges of the wings just to make sure that we don't have a seam line on there as well. And getting all this glued in. I will say that the reason why I messed up the Edward flap set was because I had the wings all glued together and then I tried to slot it in with the flap well, and that did not work out. So next time when I do the B-17F, I'm going to be doing the flaps before I have the wings glued together. Just getting this little piece in where some piping goes in. Not sure what piping it is. Um, and then now we're going to start on the putty work, just using the Tamiya white putty and spreading that on. And I went through and got everything sanded down using the Infinity sanding sticks all the way from 400 all the way up to a 4000 grit right here. Primarily wet sanding on that. So now we got the wings all done. You can see right there some of the parts I had to fill in with putty right there. And now we're going to be getting them attached to the fuselage. And this is when this kit really becomes a monster of a kit. Monster, I mean by huge. The fit on the wings is actually really, really good and tight. It slots right into place. You slot it in and then you give it a little bump and it holds pretty good. We do have a little bit of a gap to take care of. So I'm going to be using the perfect putty right here on this spot. And then I'm going to take a wet cotton bud and clean up the excess on both wings. And then we do it on the underside as well, but I didn't put that on camera. All right, so now we're working on the ball turret using the aluminum marker again. We're painting it with the aluminum marker right here because this is going to be the interior color for it. We're going to come back in and airbrush it here in a little bit. We got it masked with the Ask marking or masking set, and I'm really a fan of those because all the numbering and everything makes masking a lot easier. Now we're gluing in the glass work to the top turret. Again, perfect fit on this. Just a little bit of a tap with the tweezers to get it pushed into place. And we are all set. With the guns, I'm using the Edward Brazen set for the guns. Just a little bit of modification, a little bit of boring out of the holes to get the barrels to fit. And with the ball turret, once everything was glued together, I wasn't really happy with the fit. We still had some gaps to take care of, so I had to repaint everything. So when I did do the first paint, I painted all the pieces separately and then glued them together. But now, after I see the gap, I filling it with the perfect putty, wet cotton bud to clean up the excess, and then also quicksand because there was a little bit of a step on the top piece of the turret. So sanding that down, and then I'm going to go back and hit it with the primer and the neutral gray. And now we are repainting the barrels right here. Again, barrels and guns are from the Edward Brazen set, and I'm using the Tamiya Dark Iron paint to paint the barrels on here. I know they're a little bit out of whack, but that'll do for me. Now getting on the top turret to the assembly right here. Again, really nice fit. It's a tight fit, so it did take a little bit of extra motivation to get that thing to fit on right, but once you got it in, it fits perfectly. And now we're removing all the masking for the turret. Everything came out really nice and clear. No issues with the mask right here. So getting that all off. And I'm going to wait to put this on until the very end. This is going to be one of the last pieces that go on. And also adding, now we're constructing the turret, getting that added in. Real nice fit with the pins, and then just doing a quick touch up with the aluminum for where I had to cut it off of the sprue and getting that glued into place right like so. And there you go. There's our turret, and that's it for today. Alright, so that's going to do it for today's video on the B-17. It's finally back on the bench, and we got a lot done in this video, and actually now it is in the paint booth. I got the primer on and the first coat of the aluminum. In the next video I'm going to show you what paint scheme I'm doing, but it's going to be the Little Miss Mischief paint scheme with the half aluminum, half olive drab paint scheme. So I'm really looking forward to how this one turns out, and really excited. It's going to be a lot of masking and a lot of everything else going on, but it's going to be a really cool paint scheme when it's all said and done. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it's kind of a short video, and then moving forward I'm really kind of trying to figure out how I'm going to get this thing all in the camera frame, because it barely fits on my workbench as is, and also barely fits in the paint booth, and I have an extra large paint booth for aircraft like this, and it's still protruding out a good amount. So I'm going to be working on some ways to get the camera mounted so I can get everything in, or we might just have to do at the end showing you with the model on how everything's going. So I'm going to figure that out for our next video, but other than that, that's all I got. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you haven't yet, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, hit the bell button for notifications of when I post future videos. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.